Hey everyone, Mike from Australian Mountain Bike. I'm here reviewing the Marin Team 1 today, which comes from Bikes Online. This is a $1,999 hardtail, and Bikes Online say it is designed for aggressive XC. And you're probably asking, well, what is that exactly? We'll take a look at the bike and I'll go over how it rides so we can get to the bottom of what that is and why it might be a good bike for you. So the Marin Team 1 has an alloy frame, and this is a 29er, has a 120mm travel fork, and this is a large test bike that I'm on, but it does come in a small through to an extra large. With the 120mm fork, it's got a 68-degree head angle, which keeps the steering nice and steady, and it's matched with a 450mm reach in the large test size. So that longer reach means that it is nice and steady in a straight line when you are kind of riding a bucking hardtail bronco down a trail. It's got a 74-degree seat angle, so what that does, it kind of puts you a bit more centered over the middle of the bike when you're climbing, so that the front wheel doesn't wander around when you're climbing single track as well. So that works hand in hand with the slacker head tube angle. On the frame, while this bike doesn't actually come with a dropper post, it does have routing for internal dropper post, so that's a really nice touch. And it is also boost spacing front and rear with through axles. So that's a 148 back and a 110 up the front. For the group set, Marin have spec'd a predominantly Shimano Deore 12-speed group. So that means we've got a 12-speed mech, shifter, cassette, KMC chain, and two-piece crankset with a fitted front chainring as well. Brakes are from Shimano, 2-piston with 180mm rotors on there. Okay, so let's look at some of the features on the Marin Team 1. So probably the big one is it's an alloy frame, and it shares the same frame as the model below it, which is the Team 2. It's got internal routing, including for a dropper post, although there isn't one that's spec'd on this model. It's got room for wide tyres, it's got 2.35s fitted, and it's got a really nice finish. The back end is a 148 by 12 boost spacing, so that's a current standard, which is a really good move from Marin. And it's 110mm boost spacing in the front with a RockShox Duty TK. I like that it's a RockShox fork because it's something you're always going to be able to get spares for. The group set is a wide-ranging Shimano Deore 12-speed, so you get a 10 through to 51 cassette in the back and really precise Hyperglide Plus shifting. So let's take a look at the geometry and how that relates to the handling of the Marin Team 1. So I've got a large test bike here and I'm about 178 centimeters tall. So on the large, we have a 450mm reach. Now that's matched with a 68-degree head angle, so that makes it pretty steady when you're descending without being so slow on the climbing trails. Marin also have a 74-degree seating angle. That puts you over the center of the bike when you're climbing and kind of keeps that front wheel in check so it doesn't wander around without any weight on the front. The bars are quite wide at 780 mils. Obviously, it's better that they come wider than narrower because you can trim them if you need to. I like 760. I haven't cut these down because it's a test bike, but you could do that if you need to. And they've also got a nice short stem to help prevent you from going over the bars when you're really sending it on this hardtail. In terms of ergonomics, which makes a big difference on any bike, everything falls really nicely into place on the Marin Team 1. The geometry is well designed, and that makes a difference, that when you get on the bike, everything feels as it should. If I had to be picky, I would say that the Shimano MT200 levers are quite long, and so I found that I need to move them inboard a little bit just so you're not tempted to put a second or even third finger on the brake levers. But that's it. Most of the bikes that you'd find at this price range have a similar kind of brake lever on there. I did find the saddle comfortable. I like the grips are lock-on grips. There's not really too much to get fussy about with the ergonomics of this one. What about the components? As mentioned, we've got the Shimano 12-speed Deore group set, and that's almost throughout. A couple of places where that's not complete here. One is the crankset. So it is still a two-piece crank with external bottom brackets, which is fantastic, but the chainring isn't as easy to be replaced as it would be on a Shimano crankset. So if you do bend the chainring or just wear it out eventually, you might find that you might need to replace the whole crankset. The fork as well, being a RockShox Duty TK, you've got rebound adjustment, an air spring and lockout. So with an air spring, it means you can set the spring rate that you need for your riding style and your body weight. So that makes a big improvement for being able to have it adjustable for any kind of rider. The rebound adds the control. So obviously the air spring, you don't want to just have it really firm and it's going to react with that same kind of pressure. The rebound lets you get a little bit more control in there as well. Kudos to Marin for speccing some nice wheels on this bike. So they're an alloy rim on a Shimano rear hub and a sealed bearing front hub, and they're an asymmetric spoke drilling, which means it helps the strength of the rim with less dish on the drive side. And it's a 29mm internal rim as well. It's taped and ready to go tubeless, and as are the 2.35-inch tyres. Given this is your contact patch for the ground, and that's where your traction comes from and your comfort, there's a lot to be gained by chucking a tubeless kit in this, so that's some sealant and valves. But Marin have done the hard work and made sure you've got a wheel set and a set of tyres that are capable of doing that. So well done to Marin for that. So on the trail, how does the Marin handle? Well, funnily enough, handles like a hardtail, but I tell you what, it's a really good hardtail to get on and just pedal and go riding. And I think that's where the standout is for the Marin Team 1. It's a great bike to go fast up and go fast down. The low overall weight really helps with that. It does respond really well it responds really well to input through corners. So pushing through the bars with a low head tube as well, it keeps you nicely centered on the bike. So it's easy to change direction without being too nervous at all. It accelerates easily, and that being easy to maneuver, you'll find that even on tight climbing trails, it's a lot of fun, while also still changing line without getting unruly on descents. It's got really reliable shifting and braking, and so I think there's a lot less to think about when riding the Marin than some people might think for a bike under $2,000. The shifting was consistent throughout the range with no missed shifts, which I really enjoyed. Of note, it is a KMC chain on here, not a Shimano Hyperglide Plus, and the Shimano Hyperglide Plus chains are designed to work with the Hyperglide Plus 12-speed cassette too. So down the track, when you wear this chain out, you will actually get even better shifting if you put a Shimano chain on there. This is a better tyre and wheel combination than you might expect at a $2,000 hardtail, and I think that really makes a big difference when you're on the trail. So you can get that contact patch just right when pushing into corners, be it railing uphill corners or on descents. I did notice there's no dropper post on this bike, and that does make a difference riding it as stock out of the box. But you can easily add one later, and I'm probably prefer that Marin have put that extra effort into the drivetrain, having a brand name suspension fork and a good quality wheel set on there too, because it's easy enough for a couple $100 or more to add a dropper post at a later point. It does obviously change its descending handling as it is. You could chuck a quick release seat post on here if you want, but realistically, everyone rode for a long time without a dropper seat post. And in terms of keeping the weight low for climbing speed and just a whole lot of cross-country speed, it's still a blast to ride. So my take on the Marin Team 1 from Bikes Online is that it is an awesome, aggressive cross-country hardtail for $2,000. I would happily be grabbing this bike if you had some pretty fun local trails that you just want to get out and rip on for a couple of hours, either before work or after work, or before your weekend duties kick in on a Saturday or Sunday morning. There's nothing really that's holding this bike back from being awesome. Yes, I'd add a dropper post, but I think I'd say that for just about any bike that doesn't have one on there. And I like what Marin have done here by speccing a great wheel set, an adjustable suspension fork with a good group set, and focusing on a high quality frame. It's got one of the longer reaches for a hardtail of this type that you'll find on the market, and it means that you've got some really balanced geometry on there too. So I think it's a really good bike to look at, but there's one caveat there, and that is that Bikes Online are a direct-to-consumer brand. So you do need to build this bike yourself when you get it delivered. It does come with the tools, it comes with instructions, and Bikes Online even have a handy video on their website on how to do it. And you know what? They even have a 14-day money-back guarantee. If you don't like the bike, you can return it. And the other option with building it is you could get the services of your local bike shop to build it for you. I think Marin have done a great job with the Team 1 as an aggressive cross-country hardtail. They say it's a whole lot of fun to get out and ride, and from my time riding it, I'd agree.